Do you meditate?
Yeah. I have a big problem with the word meditation.
Okay.
Because, again, and this is not me saying people can't meditate properly or having a pop at people, but we've got these sort of distorted terms in our culture of meditation and mindfulness and things like this. A lot of people, their perception of meditation, I'm going to sit still and I'm going to empty my mind. What are you going to do once your mind's empty? You're going to sit there and then what? And it's like, okay, so an empty mind causes us to feel calm. And then you get up and you check your emails and there's 6 emails and one of them's a big argument at work, and then you've lost the deregulated state that you got when you meditated. So what are you going to do? Meditate again. What amount of meditation or sitting still quietly to quiet the mind causes the nervous system to stay regulated, and what's the process? So for me, we need to meditate on a topic. So I say, okay, the reason I would draw on a whiteboard and then wipe the whiteboard clean is because then I can have clarity on the one thing that I do on the whiteboard at a time. And your mind is like a whiteboard, isn't it? If we drew on it, we drew some thoughts, and then we didn't clean it off and we drew another thought and another thought. Imagine if the maths teacher at school never cleaned the whiteboard and just 10 years worth of maths lessons on the whiteboard. And that is what anxiety is. It's a huge amount of built up, unprocessed thoughts and emotions and choices that we regret, we resent, we build contempt, and it all comes out in different ways. I had a road rage incident with a man today who could have killed a few people. I had on the zebra crossing down there from the school, which is near the gym, I stopped and a little boy who's about 13 came across on a bike, on a push bike, and I could see the lady coming the other way was as clear as day. She was talking and she wasn't paying attention at all to the crossing. The little boy came out in front and I thought he was going to die. My heart raced, it nearly jumped out of my mouth. My windows were shut so I couldn't scream for him to hear. So I had to, my car's automatic, so I had to stamp the brake and the accelerator at the same time and bib the horn. And I was hoping he would freeze because of the sound of the horn and stop. And he stopped in front of the car like this. And the lady coming the other way just went straight across the zebra crossing, and it would have killed him completely. Like, it would have just killed him. And she went like this when she heard me beep. She didn't even have time to put the brake on, and she just waved and drove off. There was no stopping. And like the little boy was like, thank you to me through the window. And it's things like that for me, where you're not preoccupied with chatting or your phone. I was luckily completely present at that moment, and the quick decision making, the prefrontal cortex, executive function of the prefrontal cortex allowed me to decide what I could do in that moment. And like me and the kid, I was like, are you okay? And he was like, yeah, cool. I couldn't sort of just stop and get out, so I drove and parked and came back, and he'd gone, so he's obviously all right. But he knew, and I knew, that he was okay and that he was lucky in that instance, kind of thing. That's, for me, that's what meditation should be. It should be clear your mind, focus on a problem or an issue that's in the environment, internally or externally, sift it out, examine it, until, people say overthinking, don't they? That you hear that term all the time. People tell other people that they overthink. If we took this assault bike apart, piece by piece, and I sent it to you in the post, one piece at a time, at one point I'd have half the bike and you'd have half the bike, so no one would have the bike. Is there even a bike anymore? We've got all the components, but eventually, if I sent it to you one component at a time, it would all arrive at your end, and I wouldn't have it anymore. So can you really overanalyze something, or can you just take it apart until it isn't there anymore? Then the trick is, can you put it back together? And once you learn mentally to be able to deconstruct something, reconstruct it, then you have an open mind, neuroplasticity. Can you do that with yourself? Can you take yourself apart and say, I don't like these parts of me, but I can't get rid of them, so I have to accept them, and I'm going to monitor and manage them. And then you go, okay, one day they've gone. And you're like, hold on, by doing that, I didn't intend to get rid of them, but they vanished. So meditation, I think, is in England especially, is watered down. It's just misunderstood by a lot of people. And especially the ones that profess that they meditate. That's okay, explain the process to me. Show me what you've got out of the process.
I think the times when I've reached that myself is because I was going through a very anxious point maybe a year ago. I think what got me out of that was just having a place of work to go to where I wasn't on my phone or anything, I'm just there and just exercising really. Like just getting myself knackered, and then my mind it's a lot less scattered.
Yeah, it'll calm. It's like, so the practice is what you're talking about, the order of picking up the weight, putting down the weight, changing the weights, what's next. You're focused on something, and every time your mind goes from one thing to another, it's like cleaning that whiteboard. And eventually you will end up with clarity, and it might only be for a short period of time, but the point is to learn how to take that regulated nervous system out into the world and prolong the feelings and the emotions and the clarity and the calmness that we find during those exercises, if that makes sense.